is eligible to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Under the statute, individuals, couples, and business can all file Chapter 7. You don't have to be a United States citizen to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. As long as you own a home here, have a business here, or have property here, you can file a Chapter 7 in the United States. The big issue with eligibility for Chapter 7 is the so-called means test set forth in Bankruptcy Code 701B1. The idea here is you should not be able to file Chapter 7 and wipe out your debts if you're making a good deal of money. When I first started practicing bankruptcy law back in the 1980s, you'd frequently encounter a situation where a doctor, a surgeon, or another high-income individual would file a Chapter 7 because he or she had severe losses with a tax shelter or something like that. Oil and gas caused a lot of that back in those days. And they filed Chapter 7 to wipe out their debts. Congress changed the law back in the 90s to say no, a high-income individual cannot file a Chapter 7. That's not fair. That sort of person ought to file a Chapter 13. The distinction being in a Chapter 13, you have to actually pay back some of your debts. So they created the so-called means test of 701B1 of the Bankruptcy Code to see if you can file. Now, this is a rather complicated statute. Two quick ways to get a handle on it is to ask two questions. First, are your debts primarily business or primarily consumer debts? If they are primarily business debts, you pass the means test. It doesn't apply to you. If they're primarily consumer debts, then you may have a problem. The distinction, incidentally, is a consumer debt is one that you incur primarily for personal, family, or household uses. Now, if your debts are primarily consumer debts, the next question is your income less than the median income in your area? If the answer to that question is yes, you pass the test, you can file a Chapter 7. If you don't pass either of these tests, you may not be able to file a Chapter 7. You have to check, and the way you check is you go to the Department of Justice's website. We give the citation in the text of our website. We give the link to it, and go through a rather elaborate test to see if you pass or not. If you do not pass the Chapter 7 test, the means test, then you cannot file Chapter 7, and you must file either a 13 or an 11.